Does the group believe that there's been a complete apostasy of the church?
Yes, and I agree. They say that Christianity is the whore of Babylon or something. There's a sort of teaching in there, and I couldn't agree more. I can't tell you how frustrated I am with modern day Christianity.
Okay. Do they believe the Bible has been corrupted?
No.
Okay. Do they believe that their group is the one true church?
Yes. And I don't necessarily agree with them on that, but at the same time, I don't care.
Okay. Do they believe that their group is the only one with the authority to act on God's behalf?
Yeah.
Okay. Do they twist the scriptures?
I think everybody does, to be honest. I mean, I could give you just like, let me think of a good example real quick. Like I could talk about 1 Corinthians 11 where it says a man shouldn't have long hair. People go to great lengths to say, well, what the Greek says, or it was written for then. And so I'm over it, because even if I could find a church that finally didn't twist it, the pastor will retire and a new guy comes in. It's like, oh, great, just when we got it all right. Or as my friend used to say, once we find the perfect church, you better not go to it. You'll ruin it.
Do they redefine Christian and biblical terminology?
I don't know. Maybe. I don't know.
Right. So I'm curious, what seminary did you go to?
Well, I'll tell you the organization. I don't want to tell you where, because I'm actually disassociated with that organization, but it was through a regular Baptist community. And it's just another cult in my opinion. I mean, a lot of the descriptions of a cult, it's them. They have a dress code. But anyway.
Okay. There's one last thing before I just give you a chance to, share anything else that you would like to share. But one of the people who follow my YouTube channel actually, did come out of the 12 Tribes community. And so because I knew I was going to be talking to you, I said, well, do you have any questions that you'd like to ask? And so here's what they came up with. They said to ask you if you've read up on MK Ultra, the Kabbalion, upper hand magic, handlers, split personalities, frog stew, trigger word programming, thought stop techniques, undue influence, pathological lying, Plato's cave, or 1984.
Yeah, some of those. What was the reason for his question? Oh, because I get it.
They were throwing out some things just to ask you. Okay.
You'll have to message me that question, because I actually want to research some of the frog one. I think that might be interesting.
Okay.
But I will say this. Again, a lot of the criticisms of the community are valid if they were the only ones, or we held that consistent across the board. So an ex-member who says something critical of the community, the Bible says, when it talks about Matthew 7, judge not lest ye be judged, I think it's not saying don't judge, it's saying don't be a hypocrite. So if these ex-members are going to grill the community with a standard, they better be walking in that for themselves. If we are going to criticize a lot of the teachings of this organization or their behavior, we better do that universally among denominations, right? They don't do that. And that's my biggest criticism, is they say, well, they take your stuff, or like, as you said in your video, they move your location. I'm like, so what? I just talked to a guy who said he came back from a little road trip vacation. They've got a new location up in Washington. It's the most beautiful place I've ever seen. So I hope that they have a consistent criticism in their own lives and then other organizations as well. Not to mention society as a whole. I mean, could you imagine if we held the public school system, any normal high school, at the level we critique the 12 tribes? Could you imagine going in there saying, they do drugs here. The women and the boys are sleeping with each other here. We need to have NBC do a full documentary on the evil. You know why they don't? Because they already know that stuff is rampant and they've tolerated it. But the minute you have a 12 tribes community that sets themselves to a higher standard, they're going to strain to find one thing they don't like. So here's my response to that community criticisms. If they know of a church that's better, a community of people that is above reproach and does not have any members that don't do anything, and I could do a full background check on all those members and not find one person in the midst, show me, and I will not join the community, and I will go to that community, and I will not join the 12 tribes. So if they want to rescue me from this dangerous cult, point me to a church. I live in San Diego, California right now. If you can point me to one here, if not, the closest one, and I will go to that church. But if I find a doctrine that's outside of the Bible, or I find a member that's outside of the standard that the church teaches in their statement of faith, then I don't want to hear it. And I think we should all examine ourselves that way, as to say, am I clean of criticisms?